Welcome, Jamie.
Thanks very much for having me. Delighted to be here.
Now, to describe you as a lifelong learner is maybe a bit of an understatement, Jamie. You've experienced the full pathway of education, attending Terence MacSweeney College in Knocknaheeny, going to Colossus Stephen Nafa, getting a degree in government and politics in UCC, and now I believe you're doing your Masters, yeah?
I am indeed, yeah, out in MTU.
And what's the Masters in?
Public Relations and New Media.
Yeah, and are you enjoying it?
I am, yeah, no, I have to say now, looking forward for the Christmas break, like, a bit. You know, it's kind of that, the last few weeks of December are always crazy with college, like, but, you know, enjoy the challenge.
And maybe we could, as part of your training, we could maybe get your interview today acknowledged and certified as well.
A bit of work experience, yeah.
Maybe you could expand upon that journey when those first days that you were above in Terence MacSweeney. Did you see yourself going through all of those different stages, or was it very much not that clear to you back then?
Back then, it was one of those things. I knew that that education always provided a pathway. But to be honest, it was so far away, particularly in first year, that it wasn't, like, you can see UCC from Terence MacSweeney, but it was a very, I suppose, kind of far away subject. You know, it wasn't something very close to us, and that was something that I have to say that the school did fantastic work in, and making sure that UCC was localised, and just I suppose the prospect of going to college became very localised through things like, I remember we did the homework club on Wednesdays, and just the fact of going down to UCC every Wednesday, it just became a very familiar process. I started to realise, like, I can see UCC from my house, you know, it's not a very far, it is an achievable thing. It is a thing that I should be aspiring to go to, that I'm very lucky that there's a fantastic university within a couple of kilometres of my house, you know, but it was something that, again, you know, just that kind of localised, just letting kids know that it's there. It was kind of the big thing for me, even just kind of realising this is a real opportunity that I can aim towards, you know.
And you made that progression to higher education through further education in Stephen Nafa. So what was it that you were doing in Stephen Nafa, and in that piece between Terence MacSweeney and UCC, how important was that for you?
I always say, to be honest, Stephen Nafa was, it's the perfect bridging year between second level and third level. It was just the small stuff, like when you go into UCC, it's quite, I think nearly every first year has this kind of memory of, you go in and someone mentions the dreaded word referencing, and you're like, what is referencing? I've never heard this in my life. Stephen Nafa, we was given an entire class on this is how you reference, you know. They were just kind of setting us up for, it's not going to be a huge shock when you go into university now, because you've got this year of, we've prepared you, you know, you know what you're in for, and you've the groundwork done, really. That's kind of how I'd say. You've a foundation, you're going in with you kind of know what to expect, really. And even just I found, because in my class in Stephen Nafa, there was other people who went on and did different courses in UCC from my course. And so I was like, I knew people in law, I knew people who were doing commerce, and just familiar faces around the library and kind of things like that. I think people even kind of underestimate how that.
And these are fellow students with you?
Yeah, fellow students.
At the time, yeah?
And just having those friendly faces and kind of been like, oh, hey, how are you getting on? You know, just that. It's very reassuring when you look around and be like, I know I'm meant to be here, because, you know, that kind of, you fit in more when you know people. And it's just I suppose the assimilation process into university is a lot easier. And you know, I'm very thankful for.
And did that play an important preparation for that step then between in Stephen Nafa in further education, having that time spent? Do you feel that you were better prepared rather than if you had actually gone, let's say, straight from secondary school into third level?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's unquestionable, to be honest. Again, reference even just a year. I feel like being 18 is such a weird age, because you really go from being kind of treated as a child to an adult in the space of 12 months, and just even the things you can do vastly changes, your opportunities vastly change. And Stephen Nafa just kind of, I knew what to expect, you know, and I feel like that's kind of one of the greatest things you can give, because, you know, there's a certain anxiety comes with the unknown, and I feel like that kind of just relieved that anxiety, and I feel like I looked forward to going onto university after Stephen Nafa, you know.
Tell me about the SOAR project.
So I suppose, you know, it's just about lessening educational disadvantage, you know, and just kind of creating, I suppose, opportunities that, like, look, it's one of those things that education isn't going to be for everyone. Not everyone is going to go to college. That's you know, that's fair enough. Some people are going to go apprenticeship, some people are going to go straight working, and we need to value all pathways, you know, in life. But we just have to ensure those who want to go on to third level education have the opportunity, because we know, even like I go back to Terence McSweeney all the time. There was plenty of other classmates who certainly had the ability to go on to third level. And it's just about ensuring that if they want to, that they can, it's accessible. And I think it's just, going back to that, just not everyone is going to go on to third level, because not everyone wants to do that. That's fair. But it's just about ensuring, again, that if you want to do it, you can do it.
So it doesn't have to be even an immediate progression. You can take the time out, but the skill sets are there to be, if you wish to return back,
yeah,
you have the skill sets to return back.
And I think that's a very good point you even touched on there, is like, even when I was in government, I know, but you're going to come across...
This was government
in UCC, yes.
Okay,
Not,
I thought
not government buildings up in Marion Street, no. But just the amount of people you come across, like, it's never too late to return to education. I know that's probably a cliche, but it's when you're in education you really realise it isn't.
Yeah. Okay, maybe you participated in the Johnson & Johnson Bridge to Employment programme as well. How important was the mentoring aspect of that for you?
Again, I bring it back to the whole localisation. Again, was like, when you hear, these kind of like, I remember when we were pulled aside, and I think it was TY, and you kind of hear Johnson & Johnson, they're going to be doing this project with us. A lot of time you think, like, this is so far away, so abstract, that it doesn't even really kind of register what is being presented to us. And then we realise, that these are very, like, everyone's going to get a mentor. It's very, very localised support, and you start to realise, okay, no, this is setting me on the right path. And again, it was Terence McSweeney, the Mon, and Mayfield were the schools involved. It was all schools where we knew people who went there. Like, it was just so familiar with us that we were kind of like, no, this is actually, someone from this group is going to get the support. It's not going to be some person who we've never heard of in a school that we don't know, that it's so localised that you're just like, it provides the opportunity for us to grasp it. And I think, that was, and again, the big thing with the mentoring was the confidence, I think, because I never forget, it was around January, just coming up to the Leaving Cert, and we had this kind of like, it was one of the final things we were doing with the project, and it was an interview. And just when I came out of the interview, the confidence I had from it, I just knew, I was like, okay, yeah, no, I'm ready to do this now. I just want to, there was almost an eagerness at this stage. I kind of just like, I'm prepared. And that was, again, down to the mentoring, because like, it was just an aspect.
And what were the particular aspects of that mentoring that gave you that confidence, or gave you those skills, that gave you the ability and the courage and the willingness to want to continue and go forward?
Just even things like, I suppose, the amount of times we did we did tours now of like the Twomey plant and stuff, and just kind of even talking to, I never forget, Cullum, he's big involved in the project, and just even having, like, he's such a thick Cork accent, and when we heard his thick Cork accent, it was like, okay, no, this is people who were like us running this thing, and it just because realised, like, this isn't, again, it's not a far away abstract thing. This is people like us have from the north side who, come from an area of high social deprivation, have gone on and done these things, and they're providing us with the opportunity to do the same, And I think that again, it just gave me the confidence to kind of realise that I had the ability, and to just put myself forward.
And I also believe that you, in the time that you're not studying, the time you're not working, and you're not doing your masters, that you volunteer with the Jigsaw Youth Mental Health Services as well. What does that entail?
So essentially, I'm a youth advisory panel member for Jigsaw, and I suppose it's changing to Youth Advocate, the name, in January. But essentially, we just provide advice to Jigsaw on everything and anything. The big thing with Jigsaw is the motto is like, nothing about us without us, and I think that that's very important. Like, you hear, sometimes people talk about wanting to hear the voices of the people, I suppose, who they're trying to impact upon. And it kind of goes a lot over, sometimes, it's over the head, or it's just a bit of a kind of throw term because it sounds good. But I found with Jigsaw was that when you actually do value the voices of the people who you're trying to connect with, I suppose, the benefits are enormous. It's kind of, in terms of Jigsaw, like, we advise, even on things like, Jigsaw was open from 9 to 5, and 9 to 5 obviously isn't a very accessible time for young people. You're in school, you're working, etc. And just kind of those things, like having that perspective of a young person, being like, to be honest, those hours aren't very accessible. If I needed to use the service, it wouldn't really fit for me. And then Jigsaw genuinely takes the steps to, take that information on board and work upon it, because even like that, they do late evenings now and they open on the weekend, and just that, just take it on board. And if it wasn't for the voices of young people, you know, through the app, they would have just thought that 9 to 5 was suiting young people. And it's just, that's a very, very small thing. But if it helps one young person, but you know, who's going through a tough time, that's, you can't measure that. That's enough value within itself.
This is one of a series of engagements that the Cork Education Access Network is having with different service providers, service users, all across a team of access, and what are the access difficulties, what are the access opportunities and so forth. In terms of your own lifelong learning and your own journey and your story, what would you consider, Jamie, to be the significant access opportunities that enabled you to be now where you're actually at?
Well, whenever I think of the opportunities, to be honest, I always go back to, there's two things. There was technology, because I suffer with a visual impairment, and that I suppose kind of just allowed me to, I suppose, participate within education and people. But even when I go back to primary school, it was about 4th class before I got the assistive technology I needed. But the SNAs, when I look back now and I think what they were doing for me, that I didn't even know at the time, I'm like, that is, I even get emotional when I think about it, because I'm like, I know for a fact, even in terms of pay and stuff, they weren't being compensated for nowhere near the work that they were putting in to ensure that I didn't miss out, because, you know, it's one of those things that kids can miss out if they don't get the supports. Kids will miss out if they don't get the supports, and kids are missing out because, unfortunately, some kids aren't getting the supports. But again, I went to primary school in Sunday as well, went to secondary school in Terence McSweeney, and, you know, I've progressed, as you said, through the whole pathway. All along the way, when the system failed, people stepped in, people, you know, stepped up, and they went far above and beyond what they needed to do to ensure that I didn't miss out. And like, to be honest, like, I could sit here all day and talk about the people who have helped me through my educational journey, because it is one of those things. I've been extremely lucky that wherever I've went, I've had very, very, very good people around me.
Getting the intervention at the right time.
And that's it true as well. That's spot on, because unfortunately, you know, it can sometimes be a bit too late, and you're just like, if this had been caught earlier, imagine the progress that we could have had. But like that, you know, we're just lucky that there's people out there who, when the system fails, they put in the work to ensure that, you know, they try their best. And I'm lucky enough that I suppose I am where I am now because of what they did, and I'm very thankful of that. And it's kind of like that. It's almost hard to, in one question, to sum up what everyone has done to me, because it's so broad. To be honest, I'm very lucky, is what I'd say.
Well, sometimes you make your own luck, and there's a saying that I think Jack Nicholson, the golfer, used to have, that the more he practiced, the more luckier he discovered he actually was. So I'll conclude on that point, Jamie, with you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your telling us your story here today, for indicating and demonstrating the where success can be supported with intervention in a timely manner. For that, thank you, and continue success with your lifelong learning journey, and all the best for the future. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks very much.